Quincy, the most hated faction in all of Type Soul since release, and also the first race which popularized the game back in 2023 when clips of Infernasu and Nana Prodigy getting bodied by Speed and Keto Quincy's went viral. In today's video, I will be covering the history behind the most hated race in all of Type Soul, the Quincy. Make sure to subscribe, since only about 20% of the people watching right now are actually subscribed, and check me out on Twitch where I am currently streaming right now as of this video coming out. Now let's get into it. Upon release, when Type Soul first came out during its initial release, the meta was Speed, no specific faction. Speed was so strong that 90% of players went Speed regardless of faction, with the last 10% being Keto, Soul Reapers, and Quincy's because it did a lot of damage. Anyway, Type Soul actually got popular off two very specific clips of Nano Prodigy and Infernasu getting infinite comboed by Speed and Keto Quincy's with Volley. At the time, Quincy was insanely powerful and the meta wasn't actually entirely Speed. Quincy Keto Speed was a very popular hybrid build at the time. Full speed Quincy wasn't the most popular, but most builds would go hybrid Keto Speed with like 35 points in Keto and 30 in Speed. People also went full Keto because Sankt Bogan back then did a ton of damage, but this was a lot less viable and a lot less popular because it couldn't really combo that well. The moves Focal Point, Volley, Still Silver, Reishi String, and basically anything else in the Keto and Speed tree at the time really carried this build. Focal Point back then could true combo into Still Silver and almost anything else in your kit because it didn't put everything on cooldown. Volley was also way faster on the windup and couldn't be parried halfway through, making move stack combos insanely powerful. Back then, Reishi String also guard broke and disabled your kit for way longer, and all of these in combination made Quincy have extremely long combos, do a ton of damage, easily cripple your moveset for a super long time, making you basically useless, and overall they had everything you could ever ask for in terms of an overpowered skill set. It was nearly uncounterable, and people hated Quincy so much that they made a new slur for them. I'm sure you know what it is because, you know, it was created and the devs had to ban the usage of it. The old devs, that is, but it is still banned today. And there are also two Offspring slur recreations for the other two factions, even though those aren't as popular and don't sound nearly as good. Quincy, however, would not remain the #1 faction for much longer. Arankars would soon get their second partial skill, and Still Silver, Volley, Focal Point, and Reishi String would all get significant nerfs. This shifted the meta into an Arankar favored one, which made Arankars go from the weakest tree at the time into the strongest. Keep in mind, this was before True Vasta, so back then, Hero was actually really mediocre and Arankars didn't have the health and tankiness they do now. At this point, Quincy had become the weakest. Along with the following Quincy nerfs, Blood Artery got nerfed by an unknown amount, and the Quincy Speed Keto hybrid got nerfed shortly after, when Speed was nerfed. Fast Fang was made blockable and had increased end lag. Waterfall Dance was now cancelable if you parried one of its first two hits. Quincy's lost their bonus flash step speed. Blut Vein armor was reduced from 50% to 30%, and basically every Sero path got buffed, making Arankars way stronger than Quincy's and keeping Soul Reapers in the #2 spot because of Keto and its skill box moves like Byakko. Soon after, on the 23rd of July in the Purge of Quincy's, there was finally a glimmer of hope for the Quincy race. A new legendary Volsterndich and Shrift would drop, Fear. Except, you know, this was back when a Shikai reroll was 800 Robux, and each code would give you like 5 rerolls max. Fear was immediately really strong with 2 of its moves guard breaking, and the Volsterndich wasn't even known because nobody had it back then. For about 2 weeks before everything about Fear's kit would be nerfed, it was super strong. However, on the 8th of August 2023, every single move in the Volsterndich form 2 would all get end lag, damage, posture, startup, all the nerfs you could think of. Quincy remained basically the same for a long time, remaining the weakest faction of the three. However, due to their past strength and toxicity, they remained hated and would often be targeted in Katakura Town, regardless of level and actual strength, because everyone just hated Quincy's that much because of their past actions already. At this point, however, was when the game was already in a steep decline, averaging only around 7 to 10,000 players in comparison to its peaks near release of nearly 60,000. And soon around this time, Segunda would drop and Clan Wars had become the best way to farm for stuff. There was a very noticeable buff that Let's Steal would go through before the game died, where the amount of shots you had in Let's Steal was 10, which is insane. Right now it's like 3 per burst, so just imagine what 10 shots of spam with Let's would have looked like back then. However, most people didn't have Let's because Hogyoku fragments used to be a very rare commodity. At this point, the game struggled until it eventually died, averaging like 50 players concurrently and then at one point reaching 0. Type Soul's re-release changed a lot of things. The commodity of skill boxes and Hogoku fragments, as well as True Hogs in comparison to Type Soul and the old devs, was absolutely insane. This meant Truelet's Quincy was super common as of the re-release. This is important because Truelet's Quincy at this time was absolutely insane. As Reiatsu gear and clans were getting nerfed by the update, Reiatsu-related abilities became more important than ever, and Let's Siphon variant allowed you to not only get, but steal Reiatsu from players, which is extremely powerful, especially against the Rancars who currently have no form of Reiatsu regeneration like Visored or Let's, meaning you can Reiatsu drain a Rancars as a Quincy for basically a free win in Ranked. The newly super common nature of skill boxes also meant that Quincy Keto would soon become the meta, with Holy Thunder and Liked Regen dominating the ranked arena in 1v1s because there are 2 combo escaping moves that can each deal up to a bar in damage. And Sankt Bogan was just another version of these moves, except you don't get launched into the air. But that was soon, because Keto wasn't the immediate meta as of the re-release. The first update upon Type Soul's re-release added a bunch of new weapons, 2 for the Quincy, being the Warden and the Quincy Glock. I'm not gonna lie, I always thought the Glock was kind of mediocre, especially after the nerfs, but the Warden had been the first time in history where Quincy Hakuda was meta, because the only other weapon that Quincy's got for Hakuda did not have an up tilt on its crit like the other 2 factions did, meaning you couldn't really combo extend very well out of it. Quincy Hakuda with the Warden was absolutely insane. The crit would guard break, combo extend because the chain lasted like 8 seconds, combo open because you can't avoid the second crit, and it was overall extremely oppressive. And the first of the crit would be used so easily mid-combo, and if you escaped after the chain, it didn't matter because they could just pull you back in for another combo 2 seconds later when all their moves were off cooldown. Shori and Death Flare also made these openers way easier, and some people even began using Shori as a combo extender at this time, which is what it's good for now. Soon after, the chain's duration would be nerfed so it could no longer be used to combo extend, as well because the duration of 2 seconds meant you had to use it almost immediately. This meant Quincy Hakuda was no longer the best Hakuda because it was the only race without an up-tilting critical on Hakuda, and the Warden chain duration was no longer long enough to make it worth using over an up-tilt combo starter like the Grimmjow Claws or Shunko and Advanced Shunko crits. With Hakuda being nerfed, Keto was the new meta for Quincy's, with the Glock being the most dominant weapon because it was a legendary and everyone wanted it, and the aerial crit would guard break and could also potentially be used to escape combos against Hakuda users sometimes. With Skillbox's new commodity status, Liked Regen and Holy Thunder were extremely strong for both escaping combos and the fact that they both do insane damage for their cooldowns, and work very well with Shadows because you can't block both. Quincy Keto would be nerfed soon, but the main nerfs didn't affect its viability, as Sankt Bogan would receive the heaviest nerf despite not even being the best or most oppressive move, because Sankt Bogan getting a damage nerf is not much of a problem. This meant that Quincy was equally as viable after all of its nerfs. However, on April 30th, the Keto meta would take a massive hit with all Keto races having Reiatsu cost nerfs, which made them have worse Reiatsu drain than Speed, which was the worst tree in terms of Rei, and actually currently still is. Death Dealing would also receive some light nerfs, but they didn't mean very much, and in the most recent update, Quincy got some massive nerfs, with Liked Regen getting nerfed again, all the Let's and True Let's variants getting nerfed significantly, Blut got nerfed in its defense by 15%, Artery got nerfed in its attack by 15%, their damage reduction and addition were just gutted. However, this hasn't changed much about Quincy. A Rancor is in a terrible spot with the current Reiatsu meta, meaning no matter what, Quincy is going to remain the second strongest under Soul Reapers and above Arancars until Arancars get better Rei regeneration equipment, at which point they could end up the weakest tree again. Right now, Soul Reapers are the strongest with Advanced Shunko and the new Odachi weapon, and Quincy is just kinda mid. However, one thing stays consistent above all else. Quincy's are now and will forever be the most hated faction of all. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Make sure to subscribe and check me out on Twitch as usual. I always stream when I drop videos. I love you all, so have a great day. Big shout out to Kenix, our first bigger guy YouTube member. If you want a shout out, buy a tier 2 membership. But if you don't care about the shout out and you just want to hear me sing, I make monthly song covers for YouTube members, and it's only $5 a month at minimum, unless you want to pay extra. It's not free, but it is optional, and I would really appreciate if you guys bought it, because I don't make money off of YouTube. So the memberships are, they're actually very negligible to me, but just seeing the numbers and seeing the members and the people who want to support me is very nice. I love you all, have a great day, and goodbye.